The man they call the Noodler, Jamie McLennan of TSN fame, joins us. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, you cherry pickers.
We really are. Yeah, we just kind of come on YouTube every day, and depending what the day is, we think it's great. We think you're terrible. We think you're smart. We think you're dumb. It's very easy.
The only one who's wanted to blow this up forever.
Thank you.
Everyone else, I mean, Rhett at one point was saying they need to double down and trade for people.
He was doing it today.
I was 10 minutes ago. I said when the Noodler was on, I had a dawning, and we should have been trading for scores. And if we had some scores, we'd be in the playoffs.
Well, the Russian in LA looks pretty good right now.
He does.
He's got 4 goals in 14 games there, and
well, these two had a bet going at the start of the season about what the over-under for Kuzmenko goals was going to be.
13.5?
It's getting close.
What was it?
13.5. After
he had 2 in January or whatever it was.
Not in the month.
I would have taken the over. I would have taken the over because I think he's a 20 goal scorer in his sleep, but he needs confidence. He needs people to play with, all of that stuff. And it just, what did he get? 39?
Rookie. Yes. And then he came to Calgary and scored a goal every other game after the trade from Vancouver. And you're like, that's another 40 goal
we're
pace.
not talking about Kuzmenko. Get out of here.
So who are we talking about?
Well, I don't know, but not Kuzmenko. Are we mad? Okay, this is what I want to ask. So they can't score. We didn't do the math or the research. Pinder should, but he's lazy. On how many times the Flames actually scored 4 goals in a game this season? It would not be very many. So they can't score. They just can't.
Off the top of my head, 13 times.
Not a chance.
No,
10 is my guess.
I say 10. Anyway, so they can't score. So I had the dawning, and Connie should have listened and went and got scores. Or are we mad, or do we put? Now we're kind of putting them to bed, maybe prematurely, but it's a long shot now. Are we mad they didn't do anything with the $20 million in cap space? And whether that's to get picks or whatever resources or to add guys, whatever it is, but there's $20 million, and give Murray, the owner, credit. He typically spends to the cap, so that's what we expect is his budget. And I think we're all sitting here going, that was just $20 million.
I mean, I think when you look at the soft rebuild, whatever you want to call Connie's plan is, I don't know what you would deem it. I think he stuck with this group at the deadline because he felt they deserved it to see this out. And they're 4 points out of a playoff spot, really, with the game. Well, 6, but with the game in hand. We'll call it 4. And Minnesota's not world beaters.
And we play.
But when Minnesota does have the tiebreaker, I would imagine, with 41 wins. So you really gotta beat them. Did we all in our bingo card see St. Louis winning 10 in a row? And, I thought that Doug Armstrong openly admitted that they were 3 games away from the deadline from him blowing that thing up. He said, if we didn't win the 3 games at the deadline, he goes, I kind of was like, going to flush some stuff down the toilet. And, those guys have come back from the Four Nations face-off and they haven't lost, it feels like.
Team in the league.
So, and they're doing it in weird ways. So I had my eye on that game last night. I was doing my game, and then I'm like, okay, Detroit's up with a minute left. Like, okay, maybe, because I still believe there'll be a market correction. Like, you're not going to just run the table at the end of the year. They might
be undefeated till June.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be crazy? But I think they'll have a little reset there, and that's where you got to make up your points is go after them. Because you're right. I watched the Edmonton game, probably deserved a better fate, but Draisaitl was like, all right, I'm going to take this over. It happens. The Colorado game was fantastic. They were dead in the water, and then that the mutant there, right shot, Klapka or whatever. All of a sudden he's Tom Wilson running people over, like scoring goals. Like I was like, listen, I know he's liked by the organization, and I think he's going to have a long runway there. But that fourth line went to work and did some pretty great work in the third period there against Colorado. And then
the hockey gods took us away last night as they gave up a turnover and got scored on. But
here's a a debate for you guys, and I'm sure you've had it. I just want to hear where you guys come in. What the hell's going on with the video review, goalie interference, not go like it seems like it's every night. I know Calgary got dinged twice the one night.
Dallas last Thursday, and then last
night. Like it's just you're seeing it nightly. And I feel bad because I think I've told you guys this. I've gone and sat in that war room, and I've sat with those guys, and they work hard. They don't do it on purpose. It's an opinion-based situation. They get a lot of smart people looking at it, but they've missed some calls. And you know, listen, it all kind of evens out in the end. My biggest concern / I told you so is we're going to see an ugly one here in the playoffs. That's going to cost an organization either a series, home gate, you name it. And if it's, God forbid, if it's Toronto or one of these big loud markets, Montreal, like,
or in the final and Brett Hull's skate is in the crease.
Yeah, like they'll you know.
It's okay. It was just
right.
Buffalo.
That Buffalo's never recovered. Although they can't lose to the Ottawa Center. They just need to play Ottawa and they're fine. They're 82-0.
Buffalo's doing the meaningless game thing. They're on a heater here when it doesn't matter.
Which is crazy. Awesome. But I've watched them twice live in a week. I've said this to Rhett. How many times I said, like, they got a bunch of good players. I don't know what the hell's wrong with that team. Because, like, Thompson's a player. Tuck's a player. You know, they've got some skill. Paterka's a player. Like, I look at that. Benson's a nice little player. Their D, like, Golly,
great young D, if not
Power,
more. Yeah.
You know, Bowen Byram, like, you know, their goaltender UPL was, if you look at his records, played 52 games, I think it is. And I think he's above 500 or right there. Yeah, 23-4, 52 games going into last night. And James Reimer's the hottest goaltender for them, stealing games, standing on his head. Like, he was unbelievable again last night. It's just a weird setup for Buffalo, and now they're getting a bunch of points and pulling themselves into a worse draft pick. And it looks like they're going to pass Boston, I think. In that
already have passed them last night.
Yeah. So there you go.
Boston's a 5th overall pick, last in the East right now if the season ends today.
Which
they got to fire their Western scout Noodles. Whoever watched Calgary and Vancouver last year, got to fire them.
Do they have any, like, draft protected picks or whatever? Like,
I think they hold their own pick, but I'll check.
Okay, because for some reason, something's weird. Maybe it's just my instinct, but I was like, I feel like they have like a lottery protected or may not have lottery protected a pick or something. I don't know where that would be, but that might jam them up. I could be wrong on that.
I'll check right now.
Either way.
Well, I didn't see that. At the start of the year, I didn't see the bottom 5. I thought, you know, but now the wheels have fallen off.
That's where we thought this team would be, right? Like, if we're being honest.
Yep.
Probably without a goalie standing on his head. And
you look at the rosters, you're like, yeah, I might take Boston's collection of players in October before this one.
Probably, but I mean, there's no Pasternak.
Right.
You know, at that time, there was no Marchand, there was no McAvoy, although I like Anderson and I like Weegar.
Lindholm's nice on the back end, not the forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, and you know what? There's this year, what happens in the next 3 weeks. But if the goaltending that they've received for the better part of the year, if it just kind of becomes the norm here moving forward, and I think we kind of think it's going to be, what do you do? And I know Rhett's kind of having some fun with it, but at the same time, if you did go out and get aggressive, maybe you could have gotten some players to make you better. As crazy as it might have seemed at the time, you'd probably be thankful you did it right now. Without knowing who's available, what the asking prices are, we'll just sit here and spin for the rest of time. But it does... It can't but change the focus a little bit. How are we going to approach what we have here moving forward in terms of who are we keeping?
Meeting.
And we're still going to have tons of cap space. Are we offer sheeting? Dylan Holloway or Broberg would be awesome on this team right now, based on what they're doing in St. Louis.
Right.
It's going to be a kind of a fascinating off season.
But to what Rhett was just saying, Connie's dealing from a position of strength. He's got cap room. He's got picks. He's got players that you can probably package up and move, Rasmus Anderson might get you a lot here in the offseason if you decide to head in that direction and not extend him. And if he, again, this is up to him, whether he wants to or not too. But that's a right shot defenseman who can play top pairing, play power play, all of that fun stuff. You need players and you need good players. But I look at it that if you're going to do what you were just talking about, Boomer, you do it methodically and you get younger on the fly. Like you're looking at early 20s, mid 20s players.
Which is the Philadelphia deal, Noodles, right? Frost is 25
right.
and Farabee's 24.
Exactly. That's all I thought about. Farabee and Frost was like, that's a perfect deal because that team, now those kids kind of fit in that dynamic of growing. And you've got your older guys. Huberdeau's not going anywhere. I don't believe Kadri's going anywhere. Is Coleman, again, Rass, guys like that. But you got to turn them into good players. And do you go big game hunting? Do you, I'm just getting crazy and don't, I tell people don't radio me, but if Mitch Marner's available, do you swing on him? Do you, not that I don't know if he would or whatever it becomes, but do you start looking at players like that and saying, we've got cap space. We do need top end talent. I haven't seen the top of Sam Bennett, Mitch Marner. Who else is a exciting, talented player?
Yeah, Ekblad's up. We're kind of waiting for those Florida
Matt
guys.
Duchene. Guys.
I don't know that those guys want to come to a team that's out of the playoffs.
No,
what's the sales pitch if you're Connie?
Here's a ton of money. Like you'd have to.
It becomes an overpay, right?
Yeah, you probably have to overpay. But I will say this. And I've said this, and I do believe it wholeheartedly. I think the Flames have given themselves a pretty good reputation as far as players that, like this year, I know it's a small thing, but Connie and Hanlon go and pick up the kids in Philadelphia. Like that type of stuff. Players talk, and they know it's not like a joke of an organization that penny pinches and does all these things. Like to me, I think they're pushing themselves out of that conversation to go and that's a small market team. But they treat their players properly. And, I think that could help attract players to that market, especially if it's a top tier guy that you're willing to pay or overpay.
Yeah. I still think there's an overpay portion of what the Flames have to do.
Yeah.
Here's the question. Knowing the organization the way you do, and we do, Conroy's going to have a plan or thoughts on what he wants to do with the team being, and I go back to last spring when Conroy's doing his sales pitch to up the boss. This is what we've got. This is where we are. I'm thinking the sales pitch was, we'll go into the season, see how it goes, but we'll probably be in the bottom 10 and we'll be selling.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, the owner doesn't like losing. He doesn't like losing games. He doesn't like losing money. That's long term. He's not interested in year after year missing the playoffs. He might very well have done the calculation that I'm going to save $20 million. That's fine because I'm not going to make the playoffs. So that's my way of evening out the cost. But right?
Yeah.
The economics of it. What's the owner doing after a situation like this? Because I don't think Murray's in the way of what Connie wants to do. But Murray has sway on what the organization's going to do. He's going to have input on it. And he's going to look at this team in my brain and go, we were right there.
Well, then if you believe that if he believes this, and I don't know where Connie's at in his mindset, then this might be the bottom of it, right? This might be we've done a soft retool and moved out some players. We're going to do that and continue that here in the offseason. But the next step is to push forward. And the push forward is we're going to take that $20 million and some of the picks that we have and some of the currency that we built up, and we're going to turn it. And we're going to turn it to players that can grow together. And we want to build a contender. I always have this focus, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I would love for the Calgary Flames to be cup contenders when that new rink is ready. And, so what is that? What's the date on
all of 27? So here's the challenge. You could say we're only a couple pieces away. Let's go give out some contracts on July 1 that might not age well. But are you actually closer to being a cup contender, or did you just move from 9th or 10th in the West to 7th or 8th?
Well, that's a great point, because I've always said you're trying to give time to the two guys up north to get their cup or whatever, and then maybe life changes in Edmonton and they have a turnover, right? Like that's the I've always felt like that is right now. You lay your team next to Edmonton's team and go, where are we? Edmonton's they're the oldest team in the league. They're going to have a turnover. McDavid's going to have to sign a deal. Him and Draisaitl, yes, they seem to be committed to that organization, but they're not 22 anymore. Like they're 28 and 29 respectively. So by the time Calgary is ready to push through, I think those guys will be now in north of 30, and things could look a lot different. That's the way I see it. So to your point, Pinder, I don't think you go and go, hey, Mitch Marner, you sign here tomorrow, July 1st, and hey, we're cup contenders. But you turn the roster, continue to do that retool. I look at Montreal as a prime example of, like, they're ahead. I don't think I called Montreal as an 84-point team this season. Now they might end up just north of that a little bit. They're getting points every night. I didn't think they were a playoff team, but I thought there was going to be natural progression within. Well, we saw in Calgary, Dustin Wolf's, that's natural progression, right? Like now you kind of know or think what you have in him. Now that for young players, Zari, I mean, that's an ugly injury that might hurt his progression a little bit just based on the missing time, right? Coronado, like you've got some young skill. You've got some guys. Now what worries me is Kadri. Eventually, Father Time is undefeated. At what point does he
and Backlund and Weegar and Coleman? This is the huge challenge. You don't have a centerman that can play top 2 minutes yet. Like, you can talk about the Oilers stars aging out. They don't have stars here. Who's their star?
Right.
They got guys in their mid-30s committed with lots of term that are going to get a little bit worse every year because Father Time's undefeated. And it might not be linear, but we know a guy's not going to be better at 37 than he was at 32.
Right.
And so you talk about Montreal. They've missed 3 years in a row. They've gone and traded older assets and collected lots of draft picks, and they haven't hit on all of them.
No.
But they've hit on enough. Lane Hudson, obviously huge. Slafkovsky's turned into a really nice, powerful guy, even though you'd probably want more at 1-1 overall. But the point is that they had to endure that short-term pain before they could find their star players.
Right.
And the Flames, if you go into free agency, start spending, you haven't found your star players. You're not doing what Montreal did.
No, you're right. You're talking about.
You have to be able to get that low, and that's the other part we've discussed. It's so muddy. They have to be able to. Number one, if you don't like Slafkovsky, fine, but still, you have to be.
You know what? Sorry, I was just going to jump because I was just as you guys were discussing. I was like, how did Dallas get to? Because Dallas, their only first overall pick was Modano, way back, right? So they got Heiskanen. The 1 year they get Heiskanen at 3, and they had Ottinger at 26. They got Jason Robertson in round 2, Thomas Harley at 18th overall. They got some guys. Rupe Hintz was a second round draft pick. So there's a team that's very good, but they've never bottomed out. They've been in that mucky middle, just in, lose that.
What they did is they pushed their top players down. And so it was now Robertson, Hintz went above. This
Johnston was a middle to player.
They paid a price to get Rantanen because they sent that other
Stankoven
over. But you're right. And a lot of that is if you know Jim Nill's history, I mean, he's a brilliant scout. He's a brilliant eye for talent. And didn't they get, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it Ottinger and Heiskanen and Robertson all in like the same draft?
The same draft. It was Ottinger and Heiskanen in the first, and then Robertson in the second.
That's the spine of their team.
Yeah.
Number one goalie, number one defenseman, and we'll call him a number one forward, top line forward. Like
Johnston, 23rd overall.
That changed the fortunes of their organization immediately because they hit on all three of those guys in all the most important positions. Like you got a number one. Like there it is. And now it allows, hey, you know what? Jamie Benn can age out and he can play second line, third line, depending on what the depth we have. You talk about Hintz. This Johnston's a player, man. Like
Sagan can miss the whole year. We can add Duchesne as a free agent.
Well, and they get Duchesne as a throw-in. Like it's, hey, he get bought out in Nashville. Here's $3 million, and the guy has a resurgence because he's pissed. Like they've hit, and you have to hit. You have to get lucky on certain guys, and you have to hope that guys push to the next level. Is there anybody for the Calgary Flames that could push to the next level that you see? Is Zari got another level? Does Coronado have another level where you go, okay, those are nice not fines, those are nice pieces that have pushed, right? And then it allows Huberdeau to be farther down because he's on a long-term deal. Like Huberdeau, you're hoping would be Jamie Benn if you in the real scheme of things. If you're drafting and developing and pushing guys down, then Huberdeau is Benn and Kadri is Sagan, that type of stuff, or Backlund Sagan, because they don't have to be 1 and 2. They were for years. Now they're threes. And
they have a lot of forwards and D coming, Noodles, but they don't have a center. And that's the hardest piece to find. I think maybe that or goalie, like that franchise center.
Yeah.
And so Dallas has been great at it. Washington's another example of a team that really hasn't bottomed out that hard, but did incredibly well in draft develop. They've also been really savvy in picking up guys when, buy low opportunities. No one thought picking up Pierre-Luc Dubois was a good move. Everyone had overwatched Jacob Chychrun. Yeah. They made some really smart trades. You can do it without. It's just way harder. And again, I don't know where you're finding that top 2 center. Teams don't trade these guys unless it's a catastrophic situation, like Dubois, for example.
Well, okay, he didn't have a great game last night, but Dylan Cousins is a nice player, and like he's been a nice fit in Ottawa.
Love the
24
player.
years old. Like, and I don't know if he's a 1, but he's certainly a 2. He might be a 1 when it's all said and done. But like they are out there, but you've got to be creative. You've got to be willing to pay. You've got to willing to swing big. And sometimes, we can go picking at carcasses, which is weird. We just talked about Buffalo at the start of the show where, that's a hell of it's not a hell of a team. There's a lot of hell of a good players there.
There's talented players, and there's a ton of talented players that have already left that organization.
Which is crazy. We ran a board last night of Buffalo Sabres players that have left and gone on to success. And it's Montour, it's Reinhardt, it's Hallmark. It's like it's.
So you were cherry picking. You were doing what we do.
I was cherry picking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's what we do. We cherry pick. But it was insane. Like the list, and that wasn't. There was like second tier guys that that were like you're like, oh, I forgot that guy was in Buffalo. Forgot the Ryan O'Reillys, and like he's not a second tier player. But there was just the list was too big for us to just fit it on one board. So we just ran 4 or 5. We cherry picked 4 or 5 names, which was insane.
Just to shift gears a little bit, and I think actually we talked about this again. I feel like we're talking about things we talk about every week. You hear sometimes that was a playoff atmosphere. You hear that in the regular season. That show in Montreal last night was a playoff atmosphere. There would be no difference in the temp in that barn with the fans or whatever in round 1 as it was last night as Suzuki ties it in the final minute and then scores in overtime. It's bananas in Montreal.
Well, okay, so I was calling a game at the same time. So I'm watching it 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. Our game ends and I'm like, 2-2. I'm like, okay, interesting. I go back and watch it. It's like they're destined now. There was 17 seconds left in the game. They're behind their own net. They throw it towards the net. Sam Reinhart, not a shortstop, obviously. It goes through him to the back door where Suzuki's standing there going, oh, I'll take this. Put in the like it was insane. Like it's almost like it's willed. Like, okay, that like they created their own destiny, but it was like, okay, that's ridiculous because that whole play, they couldn't do that again. Reinhardt's not going to miss that puck. He might just get this body in front and put it to the corner and the game's over and they win in regulation. Instead, Florida pisses a point away and Montreal gets 2. So that, you talk about a shift in balance. You take a look at the Eastern Stand, the Atlantic. I've said this all along, and I think you guys would, I've said I felt like Tampa would win the Atlantic. Tampa is such a good team, and now they're 1 point back of the Leafs, tied with them, and they do play head-to-head. Florida plays the Leafs tonight. I mean, I could see the Leafs winning. I could see any one of those 3 teams winning, but it's insane what's going on. And these teams that, you talk about pissing a point here or there away. Like that's the difference in these matchups now. Literally, the difference in a matchup. Like if Florida misses winning the Atlantic by 1 point, you could go, that went between Sam Reinhart's legs. Like that's the crazy part, because they would be tied with Toronto right now.
Yeah.
No, they would be 1 point behind. Sorry, they'd be 1 point behind, tied with Tampa, but facing them tonight. Like that's a big point that Florida lost last night.
Good news for you, Noodles. Tampa's got the tiebreak with regulation wins. They're edging out Toronto and Florida there. So whatever huge amount of money you've placed down there, I like it.
Right.
Well, you guys know I always talk about the spine of the team. I just talked about Dallas's. Take a look at Tampa's. You got a Vezina Conn Smythe winning goaltender who's actually playing like it this year. If you look at his numbers, Hedman's timeless, ageless, Norris winning, all of that. And Kucherov just, 11 points in 3 games heading into last night, and just a couple apples for fun. Like this guy, I almost came through the screen the other day. I was watching Tampa play. Who were they playing? They didn't play the Islanders the previous game. And I was so rattled for Tampa fans. They were up 4-0. And then they let them back into the game. God, they won 5-3 with an empty netter. You got to tell me who it was. It was 2 days ago or 3 days ago. And I was Kucherov had 3 wide open nets to ice the game. And he stopped and was trying to pass to people back in the neutral zone. Who were they playing? It
was the Islanders back to back.
It was the Islanders, and it was like he was messing with them. Like it was like
toying.
I was yelling. I was watching on my computer because I was in Pittsburgh, and I was yelling at my screen going, what is this guy doing? And he got one in the neutral zone, stopped back. He's trying to hit Gensel. It gets picked off. They go the other way. He has to go back into his own zone to make an unbelievable defensive play on the back door to save his own ass. He stays out there. They head down on a 2-on-1. He's got an open net, and he's trying to feed it through a body to the back door. It goes the other way. They get a whistle and a timeout. He gets a breather. Then they get it down, and he's got a wide open. He's by himself on a breakaway, and he turns around looking for somebody. I'm like, is this guy messing with it? Like, if he had money on the game, I don't know what was going on. And then finally, the last one, they fire it in the neutral zone. Gensel bats it out of the air, and Kucherov skates into it, stops back, puts it in for Gensel to put it in the open net, and they ice it, and he skates right off the ice and goes, okay, that's my 4th point of the night. And Coop's probably sitting on the bench going, I love this guy, but I hate him in certain situations because it's like, what is he doing? But he's so good. It's insane how good he is. Mm-hmm. Insane.
Yeah. I brought it up the other day when he tied McKinnon for the leads.
Yeah.
And there's Kucherov tied for the league lead in points with 4 fewer games played or whatever it was. Just he's the silent assassin.
And he was like barking at somebody in the media or something. I don't even know what that transaction was about. I don't know if you saw that, but he was getting interviewed and somebody asked him a question and he just stared at the guy. It was like, stupid question, and moved on. Like, it was like the weirdest thing. Like, he's a unique guy, but I look at Tampa. I think you talk about Dallas and savvy moves, Bjorkstrand, it's a savvy move. Like Hagel, they've hit on Hagel. Like they've hit on, some of these players that, Jake Gensel, they walked away from their captain.
I was going to say, I wonder what Stamkos,
that's huge.
As he sits in Nashville, I don't know that he could have changed anything, but I wonder what it's like to watch that team perform exactly the same way or better without him.
It's hard. I guarantee you it's hard and I know for a fact that the guys were pissed letting him go because Stamkos was their captain. He was a good leader. He was, well-liked, all of that type of stuff. But that was a legacy player they let walk. They literally but they got ahead of what we were just talking about, bringing it full circle. The Nazem Kadris, the Michael Backlunds, guys like that, the 30-plus, and eventually that cliff comes. And right now, Tampa got ahead of it and said, we're going to remove Stamkos and put Jake Gensel there. And so far it's worked.
Do you think there's a YouTube show in Tampa that cherry picks? You let Stamkos go for nothing. You didn't get picks back. You're trading all these picks. Yeah. What are you doing?
it's Chris Dingman and
Yeah.
Dave Andrechuk and
Yeah.
I don't know, Chris Contos, a bunch of people yelling and
Right.
screaming.
Chris
Contos.
Tampa legends, Rob Zomner and
Yeah.
Olympian Rob
Brian
Zach.
Bradley.
Oh,
Brian Bradley, exactly. Like that. I remember playing against Tampa the first year, and we were playing in a baseball stadium.
Yes.
It felt like we were in a boxing ring. Like it was just
So big.
it was insane. That whole
Remember they
setup was insane.
That they
playoff
played
game.
Philly their first time they ever made the playoffs, and they had 30,000 people in there. Just
In a stadium that seated 80,000. That's the crazy thing. It was just you were in this corner of a stadium.
Yeah.
I remember giving up one of the worst shorthanded goals. Oh,
how was the ice, Noodles? I imagine it was great. Florida baseball stadium.
And please tell us about this goal. Yes.
well, I just handed the puck to Rob Zomner. I might as well just turn it and shot it in my own net. I would have had a better, it would be a better highlight. Put it
Better
that.
story.
People were watching you doing the McLennan. Is this guy got money in the game? What's this guy doing?
Yelling if there was computers back then in the 1800s, they would be yelling at their screen, going, "What is this guy doing? Is he nuts?" So
What are you doing? Things all right? Everything's good?
just busy. My schedule is like, I don't know. I texted it to a buddy and they're like, I don't believe your schedule. And I said, well, right now I'm in one just because I was in Pittsburgh on the weekend, flew home Monday, did my show, flew to Ottawa yesterday, flew home today, fly to Ottawa tomorrow, fly home Friday, fly to Ottawa Saturday, fly home Monday, fly to Columbus Tuesday, fly home Wednesday, fly to Edmonton Thursday, home Friday or Saturday. I don't know. There's some travel involved.
That's gross.
That's how you get the pool in the backyard and the coconut drinks on the beach.
It is a blizzard right now.
Yeah, it is here too.
Like a blizzard. I just looked. I'm like, what the heck? Where'd this snow come from?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
You owe me cheese toast.
Big time.
I do owe you cheese toast. Who do we bet on? Nashville? And they're like,
Yeah.
Might be
That's-
able to pick
that's
some
on me.
balls.
That's on me. But you know what? When you look at rosters and you go,
Yeah.
capabilities of players, that's probably one of the most underachieving rosters.
Oh, yeah.
The mustachio one on the end there, though, he called it right from the start.
Yeah, but that's even a blind squirrel gets a nut.
Oh, okay.
Wow, like
We all took the under on the Flames, 81 points, 2 Noodles. We don't look that smart all the time, right?
well, the thing is this is why you play the games. And I think, the one thing I was pissing and moaning about the other day too was the schedule's stupid.
Yep.
Like
Four Nations was awesome, but this schedule's
okay, so like you almost look at games and go, that's a scheduled loss because there's no way that team can be at least 70%. And a lot of it is out west because there's so much travel.
Yeah.
But I'll give you an example. Ottawa played at home against Columbus the other night on Saturday. They played a 5:00 game in Pittsburgh the next day.
stupid.
And there's an ice storm and all that. They got to bed at whatever, 2:30 in the morning. I know there's
No, but can I interrupt you there? And I'm serious. Like, is hockey and hockey players the most abused as far as scheduling goes? There has to be better ways than, and again, you had the Four Nations, but this, like,
I would have to look at basketball players, which now that league has become a mess because there's like stars aren't playing in back-to-back.
That's just it. They don't give a shit. It's a maintenance day, and they take the day off. Plus, it's not as physical. I don't care what anyone's. Oh, it's physical. No, it's not. Go play hockey with skates.
No,
That's physical.
there's a guy who gets a tap on the cheek and he's wearing one of those weird masks and stuff.
So-
Baseball, you're playing every day, but it's not as physical. And you get 3-4 days in every city.
Every
before you
city.
move. You're not
Well,
moving every other day.
But you know what? I think Jonathan Toews was onto something a while back when he talked about teams playing maybe series in a city, and it cuts down your travel, and it might give you. I don't know if that would.
It hurts revenue. That's the problem. It's tough to sell tickets to the same team 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, you're right. Like I think there's always a counter argument, but I guess coming to my point, I don't know why Pittsburgh had to have a 5 p.m. game the next day on a Sunday. I'm sure it was TV or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't make that 2 hours is massive on a back-to-back for a team. Because that's literally your nap time. That's literally your recovery time.
That's your 2 hours of I don't have anything to do time, right? That's your okay. I can get okay. I'm all right. Let's go.
I did a game with Ottawa back to back. They played 5 o'clock one night and 2 o'clock the next day,
Twice
which is
24 hours. Yeah.
Didn't even
it's
think
not
that
even
was
24 hours. Like it's you got to go through customs. You got to go through like, and to me, I'm looking at it going into the game, going, this is a scheduled loss, and
And an injury.
well, an injury. You're fighting through. You talk to the coaches, they're like, we're gassed. I can't even imagine what the boys are like, And so what it comes back to is the product. It's
Yep.
okay. So I'm a family of 4, and I pay a bunch of money with parking and that. I'm going to take my son to that Sunday game, and it's a dog's breakfast because
Yeah.
it's like both teams are gassed and
College hockey's awesome. The kids are very talented. They play twice a week.
yeah,
It's on
They're
Monday.
freaking wound up and ready to go.
yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. It's just
I,
general.
I don't have the answer. I would just say that common sense should come into factor and go, there's no way a team should be playing at 5 o'clock after they played at 7 o'clock the night before in a different city. Like you should look at it and say, I'm sorry, that has to be a 7 p.m. start. It should be mandatory that it's not anything other than a night game, not an early night game, like a 5 o'clock. Cause it's just a weird start to a game. And then the game is out of sync. You just don't feel like those games are not good games from an entertainment value. So
Before we let you go, of course, it is bracket season.
yes,
We turned the corner last week. It's epic proportions now, James. We are in it. There you see it.
cola
The
bottles.
Swedish berries were ousted by the Skittles. Cola bottles continue to roll. The Peaches at number 2 seed just running roughshod, and the Sour Patch Kids, they gave it to the Gummy Bears. So it's the Peaches against the Kids on the one side, and the Bottles v Skittles on the
Okay.
other.
Well, I feel like Skittles versus Sour Patch, but I mean, Fuzzy Peaches, to me, they're lazy. It's just one flavor. Skittles have got a lot, and the cola bottles are a classic. So, but I feel like Skittles is going to come out on top on that side, and I feel like Sour Patch should come out on the other side because there's a variety of flavors with the Sour Patch.
We had a massive awakening in studio earlier this week. I had brought in a bag of like the Haribo cola bottles.
Oh yeah.
And Pinder's like, well, these aren't the ones. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's candy bottles and the cola bottles. And then I was at, my wife was at she brought home the cola bottles. And it's like, you know what? These are the ones he was talking about. I have to take it back. Full mea culpa. The cola bottles let's see them.
That's
the bulk
Bigger,
bar.
softer, juicier,
those are
and
from the bulk bar. No.
yes.
But you go in there and that's where patient X for SARS or
Come on.
That's the price you got to pay for the good bottles.
So
Come on.
or
I
COVID.
see. I thought you would love that place. All the different
I love the bulk
candies.
barn, but you what you need to do is just put blinders on and go in and eat.
Yes.
Like go in and get your stuff and leave. You don't need to see a kid, a snot-nosed kid, rummaging through with their hand.
They don't do that.
Up and like you don't need to see that. You don't need to see how the cake is made. You just eat the cake,
Hot
right?
dog,
Yeah. Because if you go to see how this all unfolds, you just don't want to do it. But I agree. Bulk barn is it's a staple.
Yeah. Last week, Warner was ready to just give the boot to punt both the nibs and the cola bottles. We had these cola bottles earlier this week.
Yeah.
Completely changed it. He's a different man.
I'm a new man.
They are great. They are great, but again, just don't take a blue light to them.
Okay. So you're taking the Kids on the one side,
Sour Patch, and I'm taking the Skittles because I think Skittles are they're universal.
Okay.
I love the cola bottles, but aren't those cola bottles they're not the soft ones, they're the sugar ones. Are they not? Or are they?
No, these are
Oh, they're the soft ones.
not the sugar covered. These are the
Yeah. I still think Skittles might get it done, even though now you got me thinking I should get my junk drawer is 12 feet away from me right now. I'm gonna have rummage through there and find what I've got going on.
Rummaging. That's right.
Oh yeah. Big rummage.
All right, buddy. Be safe out there. We appreciate you.
Stay home. Get some rest.
Yeah.
I am at my home. I am
Good
going to
for you.
sleep in my own bed tonight.
Nice.
So Sounds good. Well,
Thanks,
chat
James.
soon.
There
Take
you go.
care.
Jamie McLennan on the Insider Hotline, presented by Crystal Waters. Your crystal clear choice for home comfort.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.